there's a sequence to this. This is the first one that I did. And I didn't want to buy all the stuff that Larry was talking about. So what I did was I just used the acrylic paints that I had. And on this one, I think I put too much paint on, and it was walnut. And but it's okay. I mean, it came out all right. So this is the second one that I did, and didn't use. I put black on it and then wiped the black all off. So all you see is the black that adhered to the growth rings, and that was kind of interesting. And then I did this one. I combined the demo that Phil did with the photo thing with Larry's thing. And I was really kind of pleased with this one. And then I tried some dyes on dark wood, and that's not a good idea. Didn't work so well. And so then I tried the dyes on the light wood, and it was fun. So that's what I did. We went a little crazy with it, but it's fun.
So these are two examples that I've done in the past. This one is very similar to what Larry did, that Wayne the Woodturner. He's the guy over in England. That's where I saw him do it. I used a balloon once I put my paint on to just kind of dab it, and it's got a texture to it. I made several of these. I just brought this as an example. Then I had a bunch of just acrylic paint, and I just turned a kind of a dome, and then I just poured it, which was kind of fun. I just took the paint and just poured it all over it. Just no rhyme, no reason. It dripped off the edge. I left it that way. I thought that was kind of cool. And it chipped a little bit right here. So that will happen. And then I turned this part. So that's it.
Okay, I tried his idea, worked great, got the wrong paint, and couldn't figure out why in the world it wasn't working right, but I got to some extent, and then I just put in my spiraling tool and kind of went that away. This one I like better. This is where I did multiple layers of dyes and kept on going from extremely light all the way up and kind of like a sunrise pattern.
So I've been wanting to try reactive metal paints, which I've never used before. And after the demo last week, I thought, or last month, it could be interesting to do. So I looked it up, and it's a pretty similar process where you have to put a primer down, then you have to put the metallic paint down, and then you use this activator to actually get it to do what it's going to do. So this is a rust paint job on there essentially. So it has like an iron paint underneath it, and then the activator turns it rusty. So first time I used it, not really the best job. I think I got to figure it out. I think it'd be cool if the piece was more textured. This is just a piece that I turned and then I threw it in the microwave and let it warp. And then thought, it'd be fun if I tried something like this, but I think you really got to coat the whole piece to get it to really work nicely. But it was fun to do, fun to try.
Well, this is my piece. I did somewhat like Larry said, except with the hollow form, you can't really put the plastic on. You don't have any way to manipulate it around. So I just kind of dabbed it and just kind of swished it as I was going. And it's got an think it's 433 pieces. So the inside is in it. It starts at the bottom with, let's see, there's 33 maple pieces and 3 cherries, and then it goes up, and at the top rim it ends up all cherry, and so it just each layer just gets fewer maple and more cherry.
I decided to try it on a box lid, and so it's a walnut box, and I was going to do that just as the background. There's no black in it, and I'd done a kind of a broad sweep across it, then came back and did the gewgaws on it, and touching up after that with 600 sandpaper, it kind of got rid of the whole effect, or cut it back. Now they're up there. So I went back in and I added, so the chip type look that we get with the lights now is the stuff that I added after the fact.
I think it's the third one. The first 2 were made the same way the other guy, the demo guy, made his. These are a little more reminiscent of what Phil Irons used to do. And so you put on some finish or dye, aniline dye, and then you sand for a while, and then you put some more on and sand for a while. And his, I think, were a little more uniform than mine. But I don't know, it's kind of fun. I haven't done it. I did it a little bit with pipes, but not very much. I think that I don't remember if I actually did it or not, but you paint or you spray shellac on it first, and that seals it, and then you can start putting the colors on, and I think it'll act very differently. It won't absorb like this one. See, this one has a very clear delineation between the colors, and so I think with the shellac you won't have that. Yeah, you can see where the stuff went on and came off.
So found a nice piece of white oak. The lighter the wood, to me, the better it's going to feature the dark colors. Went out in my garage and found the only black spray paint that I had was, I think it was barbecue grill spray paint, but it worked. I threw it on there, and then I went, and all I had other paints was some metallic acrylics from the Jerusalem stone demo. And so I took my copper and silver and gold, and I did the saran wrap thing, and I looked at it and it didn't show a whole lot. And so I took a brush and started stroking across it and making lines across it, and still wasn't showing up quite enough. I took a stick and dabbed it in it and started spackling around. Point being, you can do about anything, and it looks fun when it's all there in a composition format. So that's my story, as David would say.
So it's an opportunity for me to thank Anthony that helped me. We did the colors together with this gloves and alcohol, pure alcohol. We didn't got drunk or something like that. He get a nice bottle of alcohol. And I want to encourage everybody to come to the open shop. We have only few people at the open shop. We have few beginners. Solomon is doing nice steps and getting much better. So please come to the open shop.
So the paint challenge, I wanted to try this. This is a piece of sycamore, and I painted it. I used all the paint that I had on hand. So I used the spray black paint, and then I used a wall paint. And as was said before, this bowl can go in any room of my house because I have a very colorful house. And so what I did was you glob a dab of paint on and then spin it up about 1200 RPM. Be sure and put a box around the circumference because it sprays everywhere. And I thought it turned out okay, but I would use different paint next time, but this was something I wanted to try.
Hope you didn't get my It's a hard audience, isn't it?
Well, there's no surprise. There's no surprises here. It's a top. It's a takeoff on Larry's idea of painting the thing. I also did not have the kind of paint Larry had. All I had was some acrylics. And honestly, I thought it ended up pretty good. I've done this kind of thing before, minus the paint. So with the mirror in the front or in the middle. And what that does, it gives you you can see the top of the top as it spins, but you can't see the bottom. But with the mirror, you can see the bottom on this thing. So that's one thing. And the other thing I wanted to show you, identity theft in the country is becoming quite a problem. It hasn't really reached the wood turning world yet, but I figure it's just maybe around the corner, something like that. So this was the first one I'd done this with, and this is kind of tongue in cheek. I put my fingerprint. So all I have to do is match up a fingerprint and I know it's mine. And if it doesn't match up, it's not a darter. Thank you. I'm sorry, Effie. Oh, I'm not sure. Thank you.
We have 2 remote demos that are challenge pieces. So Ann and Mark, is that right?
Yes.
So, Ann, is this you?
That was a mesquite bowl that I used the same paints, I think, that Phil used, the metal reactive ones. So I painted the whole thing here with this copper paint. You let it dry for an hour or so, then you go back and you kind of dab on more of the paint and you spray it with a reactor. And, it came out okay. It was not anything special. So that was the copper patina one. Then the next picture was the bronze. And so I tried it on another piece that I had. If you skip to the next picture, it'll show you. And I mean, I'm not a fan of it. I don't think that it turned out all that well. I saw Jeff Hornig from the Walnut Log. Those are the paints. He did a demo on it when he was here in town. And so I thought, well, I'd give it a try, but All right, so that's the one that was bronze. So I put more of the second coat on it, and that was kind of the effect that it had. But I don't think it's good looking, but I'm glad I tried it.
Was that the copper patina? Is the copper patina then?
The copper patina was the first one. This one was bronze.
Oh, okay. And it patinaed too.
Yeah, this one I put more of the first you put the first coat on, let it dry. Then I went back on the second coat and put this one on heavier than I did the first time. Then sprayed it with the activator. Actually, this one I may have gone back a third time and added more to it. But to me, it just looks kind of ugly. Not my style.
I think they're both pretty cool. And this is the paints that you used, or the
Yeah, that
medium
kit
you
I got
used?
from Jeff at the Walnut Log. That right there. And they have a bunch of different ones. That's just the one that I happened to get. So it's brass, iron, copper, bronze, and then the activator.
Oh, very cool. Thank you for sharing, Ann.
You're welcome.
And I think we've got a couple from Mark Inman.
Yep, this was done in the open shop, thanks to Anthony for his help, and Effie was there that night as well. This was a piece of oak that was in the scrap bin. We used kind of the same paint that Effie was using. We used Everclear and some dyes. It was a couple of firsts for me. The first time I've done like a platter kind of form, and first time I've successfully used a screw chuck. So thanks to Anthony for all his help.
You got to experience some new things, right?
Yeah.
The back of it.
That's the back of it.
Okay. All right. Nice example, Mark. Thank you. And I think that's it. That's everybody. So now we just need to find that honest person to draw the bowl.
Okay, so somebody who typically works nights and they took a day off or night off so they could come to the meeting tonight. And so we're going to have Mr. Carlson.
Oh, there we go. Pick a good one, Dan. 4195. You are our winner tonight.
Who's 4195?
Somebody's got 195.
No, I got hers
And Mark's 4195.
Going once, going twice.
Draw,
Okay, pick another
draw
one.
again.
Hey, well, wait, maybe that's
Oh,
my
wait,
number, huh?
Chuck's got it. He was just keeping us in suspense. I'm sure you can get some use out of this, Chuck. All right. Well, I think it's always interesting to see how well received a demo is by how many people are at the challenge table. And obviously, we had a good demo that was followed by some very fun challenge pieces. So thank you to everybody for bringing in the pieces and showing and sharing tonight. Congratulations, Chuck, on the win. And we'll go on into our, come on, Chris, show and tell table. And again, we're going to start with Sean. Woo! I'm there.
Oh, it's a little teeny weeny button. Hello. Oh. Collaboration is really a lot of fun. And Anthony and I get together every now and then. And he turned the bowl or the vase. And then he said, I had to finish it. And So this is when we were experimenting with dyes, and that was really a lot of fun. Except you know, when you're working with somebody and they tell you don't do something, well, he says be real careful when you start turning the bottom. So I did, and obviously became a design enhancement on the bottom. So we just put some black stuff around it, but it was really a lot of fun to experiment with the dyes. I'd never used dyes before, and we just started putting them on there and then messed around with it. It came out kind of nice. A couple of weeks ago on Sunday, Jerry Darter shows up at the park, and he's got this piece of Bodark, and it had a branch through the center of it. So I broke it in half and gave half to Anthony, and I took the other half. And the half that I have, I still got pieces to work with, but it made a really nice pen out of it. So you find wood anywhere. And then I had a bunch of pear, and I said, well, what can I do with that? And I'm thinking of the Irish Fest. So this is what I'm going to refer to as an executive top rink. It comes with a top. Sits in a hole, and of course you can spin it and you can see both the top and the bottom. You could put a bell on it. That would be a rinky game. and Jerry said, well, why don't you drill another hole in there and you can put the pen in it? And I'm thinking that's not a bad idea. There's an executive desk set right there, and you can do all kinds of stuff with it. So I've got about what was it, 10 of these? We got 10 of these, and so that'll be a lot of fun. What? I got pens. Oh, I got pens.
So this is another piece that I watched a guy on YouTube, Wayne the Woodturner, and he calls this string pull. So this is I think this is a piece of sycamore. So I turned a vase. And so you've got it on the lathe like this, and then you take some string, no matter what diameter it is, and you coat it in paint, acrylic paint, whatever you want to use. And then you have to kind of wrap it in a circular motion, and then you pull it, and then it leaves these impressions like flowers. And so it's kind of messy. But the black is black lacquer, dries pretty fast, but it gives some interesting patterns.
So in almost 6 years of turning, I've only ever taken a pen class until 2 weeks ago. And so I finally took a class on something besides pens. And it was with Matt Monaco, who's a wood turner out of Springfield. And he does wooden pottery, was what the class was called. It ended up that I was the only one with really any turning experience. So it was more like a getting started turning class, and then me. So it was fun. We got to do a couple things. But it's kind of the shape. This one I think is more like the shape that he was kind of going for there, and putting a little detail on it. He's got a lot of details he puts on it, but it was a fun course. It was nice to chat with him and just get to know some other people and mess around. Mike? I don't know how I found him. I found him a while ago. It probably was because I saw a picture of some of his work and was like, I got to look this guy up. So the class was down at Eureka Springs School of the Arts, and they got a great facility down there. And so it was a lot of fun, but Matt does a few different things. This is one of the things that he does. And so this is a very kind of simplified kind of idea, but it's pretty cool. And the one thing that he promotes is the use of kind of interior ground tools for both the inside and the outside, or just instead of using a big swept back gouge, having more of a standard grind gouge. And then he relieves the heel a lot so you can get around these curves really easily on the inside. and do a couple other things with those tools that are kind of fun. So anyway, they're pretty neat, and I want to try making a few more of them and do some more details that he does. Just kind of try it out. It was a it was a 3-day class. I think I got there on Thursday, left on Saturday. Yeah, but it was a short one, and I think he's in Utah right now teaching at Craft Supplies. He's on a teaching year. He said he's going to do a bunch of teaching and not a whole lot of turning. So we'll see what happens.
This is my idea of a deconstructed vase or box. The only trouble is when you're making this part is counterweighting it out and drilling in enough BBs into the bottom to so otherwise it falls over a lot.
I've been making a bunch of Warpies. Wednesday, I don't remember when anymore. A Wednesday, I think it was last Wednesday, we were driving at 48th and Mission, and some people were cutting down an elm tree. And I had decided that I would try elm for Warpies. And I think it works very well. Interlocked grain, does a lot of movement. Jerry Darter told me to use microwave. And he actually kind of yelled at me a little. And so I've been using microwaves. And so I turned this today, and it's completely dry. Took about 3 minutes. This one, it had some branches that went through it. And so the grains run in different directions, got bark in between. And I was worried what would happen if the movement was too radical. And so this air dried. And it's mostly done. You still feel a little bit of cold on the top, but it doesn't look that different to me. I mean, it's approximately the same movement. And so, you know, there's always a risk you cook things a little too long. What? Why do microwave? It's green, correct? Yes. Well, I you know, Jerry's from Texas, and no, I don't know why. Yeah. Well, and I also considered it does have one other potential advantage. Some of these are fair, you know, if this is long enough and you're microwaving, it is like a noodle. You could do anything to it that you wanted. Maybe will be the next step. Do something to it while it's pliable. That's exactly the word. This is honey locust burl. And most of the burls I turn are green, but this was dry, and it makes it a little crunchier. I turned one before that was cherry, and it had lots of fractures inside of it, and so a fair amount of it came apart, and it was much more difficult to work with. But I think it turned out well, and it's a nice set. What? Yeah.
Well, as you can tell, I like turning pepper mills. And I had a piece of black and white ebony that wasn't big enough to make the usual type of pepper mill that I make. So I took I'm sorry. Yeah, this is black and white ebony on the bottom. This is black and white ebony. How's that? Okay, on the bottom, and the two knobs on top are African blackwood. And then I found some small pieces of black and white ebony that the salt has got a lot less black in it than the pepper mill, than the pepper mill. But I wanted to show as much grain as I could. So I keep away from beads and coves because to me, you break the line of the beauty of the wood when you start putting, especially beads. So I just made these straight and I thought they turned out pretty good. Okay. That's it. So I'm done. They're finished with polyurethane. There's 5 coats on each one. So that's what they are. And I don't like the chrome knobs that come on them. So I bought a little brass threaded insert that I put in there. Then I have to rethread the rod to fit it because it's metric. So now that's the pepper mill. Then this is a ceramic salt mechanism. So, oops, but that's what I do. So, thank you.
So my wife's favorite flower is a plumeria. This happens to be plumeria number 4. The first one that I made got stolen in Portland after the AAW, but the one over on the table is number 3. And I did that 2 years ago in 2020. And I finished that right before COVID. And a year ago, I was in Colorado and I went up to an alabaster mine and was able to purchase 2 big chunks of alabaster. This chunk was 49 pounds. And then I have another one that's 63 pounds. And I was able to buy these 2 because the guy was closing. He'd been in business 51 years. So I don't know if you can even buy alabaster anymore in Colorado, but anyway, so yeah, I turned this, the outside shape and the inside part, and then it's extensively carved using Fordham and bits that create lots of dust. Starting last year, I kind of just, when it was getting cold out and the shops closed up, I just stopped. You have to wear a gas mask. And anyway, so got back at it. I wanted to take this to the AAW Instant Gallery here this next month. And so that's what I'm going to do. And then the finish is just Parfix. Yeah. Good question. I don't know. I probably the same amount of hours. I couldn't tell you honestly, because rough the shape was not hard at all. Yeah, a couple hours at most. The one thing though that I do want to tell you is that, and I'll have to put this down to show you. After I've carved this whole piece, it's still mounted for a chuck, okay? And it was all carved, finished, but this part was much thicker, and it was still glued on to the chuck part of it, okay? So what I did is I did a jam fit into here, brought the tailstock up, and then I turned it slow, and I turned the thickness of this way down and parted this off down to like maybe the size of a 1/4 inch in diameter, and then it just came off. So I lucked out. I mean, to spend all the time carving and then have remount it on the lathe and have an accident happen would be a big disaster. But I did learn that trick was from Ron Fleming when he did his extensive carving. He would do all his carving and then put it on the lathe and then finish it. And then, like I said, basically just, thin Parfix and it sanded about 1,000 grit, I guess. So it turned out cool. I love it's not grain. I forget what you would call it in stone. I guess it might be a grain pattern. I don't know. Anyway. This is rose alabaster. The first alabaster that I ever turned, I brought back from Italy. That was translucent alabaster. This is not translucent. There's 4 different kinds. I can't remember the exact types. This ended up costing me $2.50 a pound is what it cost. So times 49 pounds. I don't know how much it weighs. I should have weighed it afterwards. But anyway, I think it turned out pretty cool. And then the other one is Norfolk Island pine, and the finish on that one is just a homemade Watco finish. Yeah, you know there's actually going to be the demo for the Woodworkers Guild on Wednesday. Is that this Wednesday? And she makes propellers, so you might want to come to that. Gotcha. All right, thank you. I saved the dust from the one in Italy. It's white. It is real white. This one, not so much.
Should have saved the dust ball. I can see it after.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my what started out as a offset goblet, and after it came off the lathe about 3 times, it became a box. And Anthony was kind of helping me with a different form to kind of, or shape to work with, and it was weird because it had a point where it was tight, and I didn't think I could get the lid off. And then as I turned it more, it got loose to where the lid wasn't even holding on. And then by the time I got it home, it was tight again. So I kind of lucked out. It stayed tight in the long run. Up here was basically my tenon. And Anthony said, you like to carve, just carve it into something. And so that's what I did. I had some levels kind of stepping up to where the tenon was, used those levels to kind of create the diamond pattern that I put on the bottom of it. And then the rest of it was just kind of playing around and working with the wood that was still there and figuring out what I wanted to take away. But I was real happy with the end result. It was fun. No, actually, I very seldom will scale anything, or I'll just kind of start drawing it. And I knew that I had a certain number of petals, so that I kind of worked off the petals and created. They're not exact, but nature isn't exact either. So, you know, it kind of works out. I did like with the bottom, painting those bottom triangles dark and then lightening up the triangles that went on top of it. It really gave it a fun texture to it and very visible. I almost wish I could have carried that thing down the whole side, you know, down the whole thing. It would have been very fun, but it took a long time. That's it. Thank you. The third time it fell off, I said, it's going to be a box and a lot smaller. So I think, do we got any more show and tell? I think we got through it all tonight. We saw some beautiful things, saw some different things. Rick Tucker, thank you very much for your demonstration tonight. It was something that I'd never seen before. Some of us I know had seen that done before. Challenge for next month is to incorporate metal into your wood turn project. So you got a lot of a lot of variation. There are places that you can go with that. So I'm hoping our challenge table is as full as it was this month, next month, and see different ideas and concepts. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to my Zoom people out there. Appreciate you guys